The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party. Order, please. This will be the only warning today for unsolicited comments. The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, Mr. Speaker, the Premier spoke at the Chamber of Commerce in Sydney. At that event, he was asked about how much budget preparation attention is given to a matter that is very important, particularly in Cape Breton, the matter of the fiscal imbalance experienced by the CBRM. And entirely offhandedly and quickly, the Premier said in answer to the question, zero. Then he said that he was not, this is his word, wasting his time thinking about it. Mr. Speaker, does the Premier stand today by his statement that thinking about the fiscal inequity between Nova Scotia's two cities is a waste of his time?
The Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, the question was about equalization, Mr. Speaker, and he's absolutely right. I said zero, Mr. Speaker. We're spending $700 million today on capital projects, Mr. Speaker, in Sydney and in neighbouring communities, Mr. Speaker. We continue to make investments on the island, and we'll continue to do so, Mr. Speaker. When I'm speaking with the municipality, Mr. Speaker, they're talking about infrastructure investments, and I want to congratulate the ministers on this side of this House who continue to go in communities on Cape Breton Island and other places to make strategic investments, not only, Mr. Speaker, to provide the people with the infrastructure to provide public services, to provide infrastructure to create jobs and economic development.
The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party.
Mr. Speaker, there are a number of things about which, in the healthcare department, we will not be offering congratulations to the government. One of them is that life expectancy today for a person living in Cape Breton is approximately 3 years less than that for living in the NSHA's central zone. Another of them is that Cape Breton endures the highest level of diabetes in Nova Scotia. A third is that Cape Breton endures the highest rates of high blood pressure in our province. Does the Premier, Mr. Speaker, also think it is a waste of his time, a matter of zero consideration, to think about the disparity in health outcomes for the people in Cape Breton?
The Honourable Premier.
Speaker, that is a big stretch, Mr. Speaker, to take the answer of question about equalization and move it into the healthcare issue. The reality of it is, the honourable member would know, we're making investments in Cape Breton Island right now. We're improving, Mr. Speaker, the regional hospital, increasing doubling the cancer care opportunities there. I think 40% increase, Mr. Speaker. At the same time, building new collaborative care, long-term care in New Waterford, Mr. Speaker, and in North Side. The reality of it is that's improving the infrastructure that has people to bring in to provide primary care. That's exactly what we're working towards, and we'll continue to do so, Mr. Speaker. And the honourable member would know in this budget we'd make substantial investments to children living in poverty. And the honourable member would also know the child poverty rate in Cape Breton is too high as it is in this province, and that's why this budget is making those investments.
The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party.
Mr. Speaker, to move from the subject of equalization to that of health care is no stretch whatsoever. And another area of inequity is child poverty. We know that 1 in 3, more than that, of children in Cape Breton are living in families where there's simply not enough money to meet their needs. Now, last week, at this same Chamber of Commerce meeting in Sydney, the Premier was speaking about government spending in Cape Breton and then made reference to people who were picketing that meeting on both of the subjects of fiscal inequity and child poverty. And the Premier said, $700 million. And they still protest me. Listen to the word being used here, Mr. Speaker. They. That's exactly the word that he used. I want to ask the Premier if he would like to take advantage of this opportunity to apologize for his flippant and ill-considered statements about Cape Breton last week at Sydney's Chamber.
The Honourable Premier.
Thank the honourable member for the question. The reality of it is, Mr. Speaker, I've enjoyed a great relationship with Cape Bretoners, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member would know I'm very proud of the 2 members that are currently sitting in our caucus. Mr. Speaker, you would also know at that meeting I announced that we were adding 62 more nursing seats to CBU. I want to thank the CBU for the tremendous work they're doing to continue to grow the population, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member would know the population is increasing in Cape Breton Island for the first time in a long time. And he also raised the issue of child poverty, which is a serious issue, Mr. Speaker, and that is why this budget has a substantial investment in those children living in poverty, not only in Cape Breton Island, Mr. Speaker, but across our province.